You know that feeling, right? You spend hours and hours cramming for a test or picking up a new skill, and then poof, a few days later, it's like it was never there. Well, today, we're going to dig into an evidence-based framework for learning that actually sticks.
But first, let's tackle the big, frustrating question. Why does our brain seem to be so leaky? Why does so much of what we try to stuff in our heads seem to just spill right back out? It happens to all of us, and it turns out there's a really clear scientific reason why.
So meet the villain of our story, the Ebbinghaus Forgetting Curve. This was discovered way back in the 1880s, and it shows just how brutally fast our memory fades. Get this, we can lose more than half of what we just learned within the first hour. It's a totally natural process, but here's the good news. It's a process we can fight back against. Okay, so how do we start fighting back? Well, the first step isn't about memorizing harder, it's about organizing smarter. Before you can even think about making a memory last, you've got to give your brain a clean, solid blueprint. It's all about taming that information overload. Our first weapon in this fight is something called chunking. It's super simple, but incredibly powerful. See, your short-term memory can only hold so much at once. The magic number is around 7 things. Chunking is just the simple trick of grouping little bits of info into bigger, more meaningful bundles. Let's give it a try. Just look at this long string of numbers. For most of us, trying to remember this feels like a total mental juggling act, right? Each number is its own little thing, fighting for a spot in your brain. It's just clunky. But now, look at this. It's the exact same numbers. But by simply grouping them into 4 little chunks, the whole task becomes way, way easier. Instead of 8 things to remember, you've now just got 4. See, you just took something complicated and made it digestible. That right there is the power of chunking.
All right, our next organizational tool is mind mapping. So if chunking helps you group ideas, mind mapping helps you see all the connections between them. It's a way to spread out a really complex topic on a single page, and you can see how everything relates in a way that just writing notes in a straight line never could.
Now, a really good mind map is more than just random scribbles. There's a method to the madness. First, you chunk your ideas into the main branches. Then, you organize it all visually. Use different colors, use space. This next one is critical. Connect the new stuff to things you already know. And finally, my favorite part, doodle. Seriously, simple drawings are like powerful little shortcuts for your brain.
And here's what it looks like in practice. You've got your main idea right in the middle, and everything related just branches out from there. What's so cool about this is that it actually mirrors how our brains naturally connect ideas, which makes it a super intuitive way to see the big picture.
Okay, so we've got all our information organized and looking pretty. Now it's time for the main event. How do we actually burn this knowledge into our long-term memory so we can finally beat that nasty forgetting curve? This quote right here is absolutely crucial. Just organizing the info is only half the battle. You have to engage with it. This is where something called active recall comes in. It's the simple act of pulling information out of your brain instead of just passively reading it over and over. Think of it like flexing a muscle. The more you force yourself to remember something, the stronger that memory becomes.
An active recall has a perfect partner, spaced repetition. This is our #1 weapon for destroying the forgetting curve. So instead of cramming, you review what you've learned at specific increasing intervals. Maybe after 1 day, then again after 3 days, then maybe a week later. Each time you do that, you're interrupting the forgetting process right when the memory's starting to fade. And just look at the difference this makes. On the left, that's what happens naturally, a huge, steep drop-off. But on the right, wow. Every time you review the material, that's each of those peaks, you literally flatten the curve. You forget less, and you forget it slower. After just a few of these spaced-out reviews, that information is pretty much locked in. So, we've covered how to learn, but when and where you learn are just as important. Seriously, creating the right environment can be the difference between a great study session and a total waste of time. So let's talk about structuring your time and your soundscape.
For managing your time, there's a simple but amazing technique called the Pomodoro method. All you do is work in these short, intense sprints, usually about 25 minutes, and then you take a quick 5-minute break. This rhythm helps you stay laser-focused, it prevents you from burning out, and it makes even huge projects feel totally manageable. Now for the big one, music. A ton of us listen to music while we study. But does it actually help? Well, the research says it depends. The right music can definitely boost your mood and block out annoying noises. But the wrong music, especially anything with lyrics or your all-time favorite songs, can actually hijack your focus and make it harder to remember things. This has led to this really fascinating field called functional music. Now, this is not music made for dancing or singing along. This is audio that is scientifically designed from the ground up to help your brain get into specific states, like deep focus. It often uses these rhythmic sounds that can gently guide your brainwaves into the right pattern for concentration.
And the results are kinda nuts. One peer-reviewed study found that this kind of functional music boosted the brainwaves associated with focus by an incredible 119%. And what's even cooler, the benefits were even bigger for people with ADHD symptoms, suggesting it gives their brains that perfect level of stimulation they need to lock in.
Wow, okay, we have covered a lot of ground, from organizing your notes to engineering your sound environment. So let's pull all these pieces together into one simple toolkit that you can start using like today.
Here it is, your new 6-part system for actually learning things. You start by organizing with chunking and mind mapping. Then you make it stick with active recall and spaced repetition. And you do it all in the perfect environment using the Pomodoro method and functional music. These aren't just random tips, they're strategies that are proven to work with your brain, not against it.
You know, learning how to learn is probably the most important skill you can have. So the real question now isn't just what you've learned here, but what you're going to do with it. Looking at this toolkit, which one of these are you going to try first?